Do you know the three most important elements of any great marketing plan? Well, I'll give you a clue. Number one is way more important than two or three. And then two or three are way more important than anything that comes after that. So today we're going to talk about the three most important elements of your modern marketing system, and I'll give you a clue. Funnels are involved. Welcome to episode 35 of the Cheeky Sales Coach, the three most important elements of marketing. So let's go ahead and start with thing number one. The biggest, single, most important thing about a modern marketing system is you have to have a list. Many of you are now sighing and saying, "Oh, I was hoping he would say anything except a list, because I hate list building. I don't have a list. I don't want a list. I don't want to maintain a list. I don't want to grow a list. I don't know how to use a list," etc., etc., etc. Well, here's the bottom line. I don't care. I don't make these rules. I just live in this world. But I know this. Your list is the single greatest asset you have for modern marketing. And here's why. No matter what you do, your list will be built from people who want to hear from you. Think about that in the big picture. No matter what else you're doing, you want to do business with people who want to do business with you. These people want to hear your message. They want to talk to you. They want to interact with you. They want to know what you're up to. If they didn't, they would drop themselves from your list. Now, we've talked about lists in other videos, so I'm not going to spend 15 minutes on this. But it is absolutely critical that you understand. Number one, way above anything else, is you have to have a list. And if you say you don't have a list, well, that's not true. Start with your current clients. Start with your hottest prospects. That's a list. And then make sure that you have a way for people to get on your list. Put it on your blog, your Facebook, your Twitter, your LinkedIn, your website, everywhere you can possibly put it. Put a link so people can join your list. Make it easy for them, and then use your list. Post things, send out emails. Touch those people at least once a month. And it doesn't have to be lengthy. It doesn't have to be a grand essay. It can be a couple of paragraphs to say, "Hey, here's what I did over the 4th of July, and I hope that you had a great holiday, and if you ever need anything, you let me know." Just make sure that people understand that you're still alive and you're still doing business and you want to talk to them. So absolutely and definitively, if you do nothing else, start building your list. I recently reached a grand milestone over on my other channel, over at the Small Biz Thoughts channel on YouTube. I've been putting out these standard operating procedure videos, SOP videos, for years. Literally, year after year after year, I put up a video. I do about one a week. And I just reached 300 videos on that playlist. And of course, now it's more. It's 301. But getting to 300 was one of those milestones that just crept up on me. Sometimes you don't have to set your goal of saying, "I want 10,000 people on my list." Start with 100, start with 1, start with 5. Start with what you have and build from there. Eventually, you will get to 100, you'll get to 500, you'll get to 1,000, you might even get to 10,000. But you have to start. No one else will do this for you. So thing number one, you gotta have a list, and use it and cultivate it and love it and nurture it, and it will pay you back more than anything else you do. Holy smokes, Batman. If that list is so important, how can number 2 have any importance whatsoever? Well, here's the deal. The second most important thing on your marketing has got to be your website. Why is that? Well, first of all, what is a website? A website is a place that doesn't move. It doesn't go somewhere. You can say yourdomain.com and send people to yourdomain.com, and it's always going to be there. Now, you might change the look and the feel and the navigation and the colors and what you offer and what you're talking about. You might move the blog around. You might do all kinds of things. But your domain is your domain. Your website is your website. And so you should always be sending people there, always be engaging people, always be pushing people to the one place that you know is always going to be there. Facebook can change things up as much as they want. LinkedIn can change things up as much as they want. Your other social media can make things difficult to find. They can change the rules. But your website is under your control. And on a whim, it might cost you a little bit of money, you can change it to be whatever you need it to be. So your website is number 2 on the list because you will use your mailing list to get people into your website. Remember I promised there would be funnels. So the simplest funnel is in fact the single most powerful. I'm going to put a graphic here about the search market share and where Google stands compared to everybody else. Google is way up at the top. Everybody else is way down at the bottom. This is a dramatic statement of how important it is to be number 1. So your mailing list is number 1, but number 2 is also quite necessary. You have to be able to have a place where you can send people to the website. What do they find on your website? Well, they find your unique selling proposition. They find information about who you are and what your services are, what you're trying to sell. There's a very clear call to action to either get on your mailing list or do something else. Fill out the form, ask for a free report, whatever it might be that you are using to promote your business. Your website is the place to do that. And basically, it costs you nothing extra to use that website. You got to have a website for stuff. You might as well have that website go to work for you and do its job, getting people to fill out the form, getting them to request an audit, getting them to request a free report, whatever it might be. The top of your sales funnel is generally your website. So your marketing sends people to the website, and that is critically important. Okay, take it down just one notch. Number 3, I'm going to give you a choice. Number 3 is either your blog or your podcast. You choose. Why do I give you a choice? Well, here's the thing. You should have a primary means other than your mailing list for spreading word about your business, about yourself, about your services, about your products. So that might be your blog or it might be your podcast. It cannot be your social media. Your social media has to be somewhere in the funnel where you send people to a place that you control. So you have far more control over a blog or a podcast than you do over anything in social media. Again, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, they could change the nature of your relationship tomorrow with one small change in their user agreement. So your blog or your podcast is something that you control the content of, you control the flow of information, when new stuff is posted, what is posted, what it looks like, what the call to action is. And very frequently that call to action is either going to be sign up for my newsletter or check it out on my website, right? So as you can see, because everything flows back to that, The website is absolutely central because it's the top of the sales funnel, remember? So your blog or your podcast will send people to your website where they can sign up for your newsletter, right? This is a system that all works together. So 1, newsletter, 2, website, 3, blog or podcast. What else could there be? Well, let's take a look at that. Hey, number 4, I'm just going to cheat a bit and say, if your blog was 3, then your podcast is 4. If your podcast was 3, then your blog was 4, right? So those two get to swap one way or the other. That's going to be number 3 or number 4. Now, if you don't have one of those, that's totally cool. So blog or podcast stays 3, and then you got to figure out what comes after that. Here's what I would say for 4, 5, 6, and maybe 7. Now you're talking about social media and you're talking about offline marketing. So all the group of things that you could be doing. You could be sending out letters. You could be holding local meetings, meetups, luncheons, that sort of thing in the so-called real world. That can be on your list. So you get to choose what's 4, 5, 6, maybe 7 in the order in which you want to put energy into them. Just remember, all of them have to fit into your funnel. And again, we've talked about funnels a lot on this podcast series. If you post something on Facebook, it needs to point people to your blog. You might be promoting your podcast or your blog, but you're going to point to it from your social media. And then you put something on LinkedIn and it points people to your podcast or your blog, which points people to your website, right? Again, always working from the concept that we're going to winnow people down and eventually they land on our website. Now, let me just change gears here and talk about effort and energy. If your mailing list is number 1, you need to give it as much effort and energy as is necessary to make it grow and be valuable. If it's not valuable, people will unsubscribe. Now, the lucky thing for you is your mailing list doesn't take that much effort. If you put in a place to sign up for your mailing list on every social media, every blog, every podcast, every website, well, you're going to grow that list slowly over time, but you will grow that list. So that's good. And of course, you have to actually put out a newsletter. You have to actually talk to people on your list. You have to offer them something. You have to entice them with something of value. That's all good. The bottom line is there's a limit to how much effort and energy you have to put into that mailing list. So in terms of most effort, you need to put the highest priority on the mailing list, but it may only take a limited amount of effort. So that's good news. Next, in terms of effort and energy, if your website is number 2, and it is, then you need to put energy into your website. If your website has not changed in 5 years, that is at least 2 generations of technology, right? The world keeps spinning, so make sure that your website gets a fresh coat of paint every few years. You don't have to change it every month. You don't have to change it every year. But just make sure that it looks newish and not oldish. Make sure that it looks interesting. Make sure it's appealing. Make sure that it has a current offer. So that layer of energy is also something that you have to make sure it's high priority, but it also doesn't take a huge amount of effort. You need to do a little bit of tune-up here and there every once in a while. And if you schedule some kind of change every 3 to 6 months, you'll just naturally have a website that is constantly being refreshed, and it won't take a huge amount of effort. Interestingly enough, number 3, your blog or your podcast, is number 3, but probably takes more total effort than number 1 or number 2, or both of them combined. Your blog has to come out on a regular basis or people will stop reading it. Your podcast, it has to show up on a regular basis or people will stop listening to it. So whichever one of those is number 3, It needs a lot of attention, and you have to make sure that you've got a schedule, whether it's once a week or once a month. You got to do it, you got to do it, you got to do it. Plan the work, work the plan. A lot of people don't have a set schedule, and that leads them to, I'm going to call it disaster. That might be a bit of an overstatement. But what happens is people without a schedule have a really good intention to blog, let's say once a week. But then it gets to be 8 days and the world doesn't come to an end. So then it gets to be 9 days, and then it gets to be 10, 11, 12. Pretty soon it's been a month, and then 2, and then 3. And you've seen this. People put up a blog post and 4 months later want to know why nobody is commenting on their blog. Well, they're not putting any effort into it. And so their audience essentially doesn't exist. But to the extent they exist, they're not putting any effort into it either. So that layer, that number 3 item, whichever it is, takes a lot of energy, because that's where you have to put your time and your effort into creating content that is useful to people so they will come back. Ultimately, in the world of content creation, you need to put out the best information you can so that people engage you and say, oh, this is really great stuff. I want more. Subscribe. Download the report. Give you my email address. Set up an appointment. Whatever the call to action is, people will engage if they are finding value in what you're producing. If you ignore number 3, if you ignore that layer, you're not putting out the effort, and you're not getting rewarded because you're not putting out the effort. You have to give first in the world of content creation, and then people will subscribe to you and pay attention to you. Sometimes it can be daunting to be giving and giving and giving, creating and creating and creating, and then seeing very small returns. But again, you got to think about it in the long term. Eventually, you'll have 300 videos. Eventually, you'll have something that pops. Eventually, you will grow that audience a little at a time. Finally, the next group, the 4, 5, 6, maybe even 7, that list of things is your social media and your offline activities. Those things can take a huge amount of effort, but they're not very focused. They may not have a good call to action. If you don't design them properly, they're not putting people into the top of your marketing funnel. They're just activity. And we've all seen this. You know, you get a new office and you spend 2 days moving the furniture around, make sure everything is just right, getting the right artwork on the wall, organizing everything, putting the folders in order. None of that produces work. None of that brings in money. None of that brings in clients. Just because you're active doesn't mean you're productive. Your social media activity is either just background noise or fun, or it's work and it's productive and it moves people into your funnel. Those are the 2 ends of the spectrum: fun, activity, and work that brings in potential clients into your funnel. You can do both. Most of us play a lot on social media. We don't do work, and as a result, we don't get people into our funnel. Nothing happens by itself, and that includes marketing. You can't play on social media and then check the box that says, I searched for prospects on social media. No, you didn't. You horsed around and you put a picture of your vacation. That's great. No problem with that. It builds relationships. It sets the stage for you to actually do the work, post up something useful, and get people into your funnel. But actually doing the work and getting people into your funnel takes a concerted, intentional effort. So just think about where your effort goes in terms of the most important, the second most important, the third most important, and then all the rest. Oddly enough, this is a rare case where the most important thing takes the least amount of effort, and yet many people want to spend all their time way at the bottom where they can feel like they're very, very active, but they don't actually do anything that's productive. Think about it. Rewatch this video if it doesn't make any sense. Send me your questions and comments. I want to hear back from you and find out how you're doing and where you're putting your effort. I think some people are a little bit depressed to hear that all the fun they've been having on social media hasn't turned into dollars, but that's one of the problems with social media. It is fun, and so it looks like it's engaging, but that doesn't necessarily lead to dollars. You have to make the connection to make those dollars come in the door. For the Cheeky Sales Coach, this is Karl Palachuk, wishing you the best of luck in everything you do. Call to action. Like, subscribe, and ring that bell so you won't miss a thing.